The morning after I accidentally kissed my boss in front of half the company, I walked into her office carrying my resignation. Claire Whitmore looked at the envelope, then at me. She didn't open it. Instead, she reached into her desk and pulled out a marriage license application, a transfer offer, and a prenup with my full legal name already printed on page 1. I stared at all three. Claire. At work, it's Ms. Whitmore. You have a marriage license with my name on it. I'm aware. And a prenup. Yes. How long have you had these? Her eyes stayed on mine. We'll get to that. That was not an answer. 24 hours earlier, Claire Whitmore had simply been the most intimidating woman at Halcyon Systems. Now I was beginning to suspect she had been planning something involving me for much longer than 24 hours. The disaster started at Halcyon's annual client celebration in downtown Denver. We had just landed the biggest logistics contract in company history, senior management had opened the bar, and everyone had consumed enough bourbon to make Monday morning dangerous. I wasn't drunk enough to forget what happened. Unfortunately, the elevator had been packed. Someone bumped me from behind just as I stepped inside. I lost my footing. Claire turned at exactly the wrong moment. My mouth landed directly on hers. There were 12 people in that elevator. Every one of them watched Ethan Cole, 27-year-old operations analyst, accidentally kiss Claire Whitmore, 30-year-old COO and undisputed terror of Halcyon Systems. Claire had made senior vice presidents redo presentations because a forecast model contained one unsupported assumption. She once returned a 60-page proposal with 2 words. Try again. People did not flirt with Claire. They prepared for meetings with her. And I had kissed her. When I jerked backward, her face went bright red. Ms. Whitmore, I'm sorry. I slipped. She slapped me. Not hard enough to hurt much, but hard enough to make the elevator even quieter. Then she walked out. I spent the entire night imagining HR interviews, awkward investigations, unemployment, and eventually moving into my parents' basement outside Milwaukee while my father asked how I had managed to ruin a career with my mouth. So I resigned before Claire could fire me, which brought me to her office at 8:30 the next morning. Claire finally picked up my resignation. She tore it in half. What are you doing? Rejecting the premise. I'm pretty sure resignations don't need your approval. You're resigning because you think I'm going to punish you for an accident. I'm not. She pushed the transfer document toward me. Option 1. You transfer to corporate planning. Same salary, same seniority, different reporting chain. HR has reviewed it. Yesterday is documented as an accidental contact at a company event, witnessed by 11 people. I blinked. That's disturbingly reasonable. Option 2. You stay where you are while we arrange a normal reassignment over the next month. Also reasonable. Option 3. She touched the marriage license application. You marry me. I stared at her. There it is. There what is? The part where I start looking for hidden cameras. Claire folded her hands. I'm serious. Most people start with coffee. You already bring me coffee. That is not dating. I dislike dating. So you decided to eliminate the entire middle section? I prefer decisive solutions. Claire, marriage is not an efficiency problem. No. It's an offer. Then she slid a 4th document toward me. This one made me stop joking. It was a 1-year spousal agreement attached to the prenup. I read the first page twice. $36,000? $3,000 a month for the first year. For being your husband? For the inconvenience of entering an unconventional marriage on short notice. It's taxable income and disclosed in the agreement. My attorney insisted on making the language painfully clear. I looked up. You're paying me to marry you. I'm compensating you for a disruption I'm asking you to accept. That sounds exactly like something a COO would say when paying someone to marry her. She ignored that. The money is yours regardless of whether the marriage lasts beyond the first year. It doesn't buy affection, sex, exclusivity beyond the normal terms of a marriage, or obedience. The agreement says that explicitly. I turned another page. There was more. If I accepted the transfer, Halcyon would release me from the non-solicitation clause attached to the specialized forecasting system I had helped build. That mattered. A lot. For nearly a year, I had wanted to develop an independent supply chain analytics product with an old college friend. My employment agreement didn't prohibit side projects, but the overlap was close enough that I had never risked it. You've released the restriction? Halcyon would narrow it to our proprietary code and active clients. Your own work would remain yours. Why? Because you've complained about wanting to build something of your own for 11 months. I complained twice. 7 times. I stared at her. She continued. You send your parents $800 most months. My expression changed. Claire immediately added, payroll doesn't tell me that. You mentioned it to Marcus when his father was sick. I remembered. One conversation in the break room. Months ago. My dad's hours got cut, I said. I know. How? You requested extra overtime around the same time. That was Claire. She didn't need to invade your privacy. She simply noticed everything and apparently never forgot any of it. The monthly payment would give you breathing room, she said. Not enough to solve your life. Enough that you could stop taking overtime every weekend and spend that time building your product. That hit harder than the marriage license. My father's reduced hours hadn't destroyed my family. My parents still paid their bills. But I had quietly become the cushion whenever the mortgage, medical copays, or car repairs landed at the wrong time. $3,000 a month would not make me rich. It would buy time. And the contract release would buy something even more important. A chance to build the thing I actually wanted. I closed the agreement. So let me understand this. If I say no, you don't retaliate. No. I can take the transfer anyway? Yes. But if I say yes, I get the transfer, the narrowed restriction, and $3,000 a month for a year. Yes. That is an aggressively attractive offer. I intended it to be. Why? Her composure slipped for half a second. Because I want you to say yes. There it was. Not pressure. Not a threat. Want. I leaned back. Why me? Claire's gaze dropped to my hands. Because I know you. You know my work. I know you send your mother flowers every birthday and then pretend your sister chose them. You take your coffee with 2 sugars when you're tired and black when you're angry. You hate cilantro. You always give Naomi the chair facing away from the windows because she gets migraines. You complain every time someone asks for help after 5 and then stay anyway. I stared at her. How do you know about my mother's flowers? You took the florist's call outside my office. Of course I did. Claire pushed the prenup closer. My uncle has spent 18 months introducing me to men he considers appropriate. Board members keep turning dinners into matchmaking exercises. I'm tired of being treated like an available corporate asset. So you're solving that by marrying an analyst? I'm solving it by marrying the man I actually want. That landed hard. You could ask me out. Her jaw tightened. If I asked you out while you reported into my organization, you'd wonder whether saying no would affect your job. I refuse to put you in that position. So your ethical solution is marriage? The transfer is my ethical solution. The marriage is the selfish one. I laughed despite myself. Then I noticed the date on the prenup draft. 3 weeks ago. I stopped laughing. This existed before the elevator. Yes. How long were you planning to ask? Long enough. I looked at the transfer release again. My own product. Less overtime. My parents getting a little breathing room without Claire swooping in and paying their bills. And across the desk sat a woman I had spent 2 years being intimidated by, who apparently knew exactly what I wanted and had constructed the strangest proposal in Colorado history around giving me a path toward it. This was insane. But it wasn't empty insanity anymore. If I do this, I said, I have conditions. Claire straightened. Go ahead. No interference with my side project. No using your position to fix my career. No checking my phone. No deciding who I can see. No surprise access to my accounts. If you're jealous, you use words like a normal person. Her mouth tightened at that one. Fine. And if I decide this was a mistake, we talk about it. You don't turn into the COO and negotiate me into staying. A pause. Then she nodded. Agreed. One more. What? Someday you tell me why you had a prenup with my name on it 3 weeks before I kissed you. Claire looked away. Someday. I held the pen. My pulse was pounding. This could be the dumbest decision of my life. It could also give me the first real shot I'd had at building something of my own. And if I was completely honest, the money and career freedom weren't the only reasons my hand stayed over the signature line. Claire Whitmore wanted me. Not vaguely. Not someday. Enough to plan for me. Enough to risk hearing no. I signed. Claire stared at my signature. For the first time that morning, her hands shook. Only once. Then she gathered the papers. Good. That's it? What were you expecting? I just agreed to marry you. Yes. You could look slightly happier. I am happy. You look like you closed an acquisition. Claire stood and picked up her purse. We have an 11 o'clock appointment downtown. I stared at her. You already made the appointment? I made 2. 2? One at 11 and a backup at 2:30 in case you needed more time. I slowly stood. That is somehow worse. Her mouth finally curved. You said yes, Ethan. And there was enough satisfaction in those 4 words to make me realize something everyone at Halcyon had gotten wrong. Claire Whitmore wasn't cold. She was controlled. There was a difference. And for reasons I still didn't understand, she had been losing that control over me for a while. By 3 that afternoon, I was married. Colorado made the legal part surprisingly simple, and Claire had researched every detail long before I knew there was anything to research. That sentence should have bothered me more than it did. We picked up the license downtown. Because Colorado allowed couples to solemnize their own marriage, we signed it ourselves instead of turning the moment into a courthouse performance. Claire held the completed license for several seconds. You okay? I asked. Yes. You look nervous. I just married someone who thinks cereal counts as dinner. That sounds like buyer's remorse. I don't experience buyer's remorse. Of course you don't. She slipped the document into a rigid folder she had brought specifically so it wouldn't crease. I looked at it. You bought a marriage license folder. I own folders. That one says vital records. It was already labeled. Claire. She walked away. Before returning to Halcyon, she made one additional stop. A jeweler. I can buy my own ring. I know. I have money. I know. Then why are you? Because I want to put a ring on my husband. I stopped. Claire continued toward the counter as though she had not just short-circuited my brain. She chose simple platinum bands. Mine fit on the first try. I looked at my hand, then at her. No. What? You do not get to say you guessed. I estimated. From what? Claire took my hand and closed her fingers around mine. This. You held my hand once. Twice. When? The company volunteer day. We were carrying a table. You grabbed my hand instead of the table. For 3 seconds. Approximately. I stared at her. You remember my finger circumference from 3 seconds of contact? I have good spatial memory. That explanation made this stranger. She paid. When we returned to the office, HR already knew about the marriage and my transfer. Claire had disclosed the relationship, removed herself from any decisions involving my compensation or performance, and signed a conflict of interest protocol. The company, however, did not know. That lasted 11 minutes. Claire and I stepped off the elevator together. 2 analysts noticed our rings. A third noticed Claire holding my hand. The hallway went silent. Claire appeared completely comfortable. I was considering faking a medical emergency. She stopped beside my desk and straightened my tie. 3 o'clock meeting. I know. Don't be late. I'm never late. You were 4 minutes late to your second interview. That was 2 years ago. You blamed parking. There was construction. Then she said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, what do you want for dinner? Someone behind me dropped a pen. I looked at her. You cook? Occasionally. I didn't know that. You don't know many things about me. There was that look again. Like she had information I didn't. Steak? I said. With roasted potatoes. I narrowed my eyes. How do you know I like roasted potatoes? Everyone likes roasted potatoes. That is statistically indefensible. She patted my tie and walked away. By 4, the company chat had become unusable. Marcus sent. Did you marry Whitmore? Then. Blink twice if this is a hostage situation. Then. Wait, are you rich now? I replied. No. Still working. Please suffer quietly. At 5:30, Claire texted. Garage. B2. I found her beside her Audi. Where are we going? Your apartment. Why? To get your things. We got married 7 hours ago. Yes. Normal couples discuss moving. We discussed separate bedrooms. That is not the same thing. She opened the passenger door. I cleared the guest room. You cleared it when? Claire paused. Recently. That word was suspicious. 20 minutes later, she stood in my apartment looking at the second-hand couch, leaning bookshelf, and clean laundry piled on a chair. This is where you live? It has walls and plumbing. You make a decent salary. And I send money home. I know. There it was again. She picked up the framed photo of my parents and me beside Lake Michigan. Your father looks like you. That's unfortunate for both of us. Your mother has kind eyes. She'll like you. Claire put the photograph down carefully. You think? The question was so quiet I almost missed it. Yeah. Until she starts asking about grandchildren. Claire's ears turned pink. I grinned. You're afraid of my mother. No. You're blushing. Pack. Her condo occupied the 23rd floor of a downtown tower. The guest room was ready. Not recently ready. Ready. New sheets. A phone charger compatible with my model. My favorite sparkling water. The cinnamon toothpaste I used because normal mint toothpaste tasted like mouthwash to me. I opened the bathroom drawer. My razor blades were there. I turned slowly. Claire stood in the doorway. How long? She knew exactly what I meant. 3 weeks. The prenup was 3 weeks ago. Yes. You prepared a bedroom for me before you asked me to marry you. I prepared an option. You bought cinnamon toothpaste as an option? You're difficult to shop for. I walked to the kitchen. My coffee creamer was in her refrigerator. The hot sauce I kept at work was in the cabinet. A box of the protein bars I ate on late nights sat beside the coffee machine. I turned. Claire had followed me but was now studying a very interesting section of wall. Claire, dinner will be ready in 30 minutes. You stocked your home for me before I knew you wanted me. 29 minutes. Did you buy the sparkling water too? She walked toward the bedroom. 28. I laughed. She disappeared around the corner. The marriage was still crazy. But for the first time, it occurred to me that I might not be the person who had made the craziest decision. Claire's version of newlywed life was unsettlingly specific. On Saturday morning, she took me to buy a suit for the Halcyon Foundation dinner. I already owned a suit. Claire had opinions about that suit. It's fine. It's shiny. It's wool. It has become shiny. Clothing ages. So do people. We don't wear them to charity dinners either. I stared at her. That analogy collapsed halfway through. She handed me a charcoal jacket. Try this. When I came out, Claire stopped talking. The sales associate noticed. So did I. Claire's eyes traveled over the jacket, then snapped back to my face. That one. The associate smiled. Your wife has excellent taste. The word wife still hit me strangely. Claire stood and adjusted my lapel herself. Her fingers lingered for a second. Then she noticed me noticing. She stepped back. At lunch, she ordered my burger without raw onion and changed the fries to a side salad because I had complained that formal dinners always served heavy food. I set down my menu. You're doing it again. What? Knowing things. I pay attention. To everyone? No. She took a sip of iced tea. That was all. Claire could drop a sentence directly into my chest and continue lunch as if nothing had happened. The foundation dinner was worse. Not because Claire treated me badly. Because she treated me too well. The ballroom was packed with executives, clients, nonprofit directors, and several Halcyon board members. The second we entered, Claire's hand slipped around my arm. This is my husband, Ethan. She said it repeatedly. Every time, there was a quiet satisfaction in her voice. At one point, a senior consultant named Rachel touched my sleeve while laughing at something I said. Claire appeared beside me less than 30 seconds later. She did not glare at Rachel. She did not interrupt. She simply handed me a glass of water and said, "You always forget to drink anything at these things." Then she took my free hand. Rachel looked at our linked fingers. Claire smiled pleasantly. I waited until Rachel left. Was that jealousy? No. You crossed a ballroom. I was getting water. For me. You looked thirsty. You were talking to the board chair. He was boring. I leaned closer. You're jealous. Claire's expression remained perfectly composed. I dislike people touching things that belong to me. I stared at her. Her eyes widened slightly. People, I said. I phrased that badly. You think? She tightened her grip on my hand. You're enjoying this. Immensely. She released me. 2 minutes later, she came back and took my hand again. That was Claire. She knew when she was being unreasonable. She simply wasn't always interested in stopping. Later that evening, Richard Hall from the board asked how we had gotten together. Claire said, I proposed. His wife laughed. How? Efficiently. I nearly inhaled champagne. On the drive home, I asked, were you really going to ask me before the elevator? Claire's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Yes. When? I hadn't decided. That means you had decided. It means there were several possible dates. Of course there were. She ignored me. I watched Denver slide past the windows. Why didn't you? Claire was quiet. Then she said, because every version ended with the possibility that you said no. That was the first time she admitted fear. I turned toward her. Claire Whitmore is afraid of rejection. Everyone is afraid of rejection. You once told a vendor his proposal was an expensive argument against literacy. It was. You terrify people for recreation. I do not. You absolutely do. Her mouth twitched. At home, she kicked off her heels and rubbed one ankle. My dad had surgery on his ankle, I said. I learned some massage techniques. Claire looked at me. You can massage feet? Enough to help. She extended one leg. Please. I blinked. What? You said I need to ask. That was true. I sat at the other end of the couch and carefully worked my thumbs along the arch of her foot. Claire gradually relaxed. After several minutes, her head tipped against the cushion. You're good at this. My mother used to make me rub her shoulders whenever I came home from college. Your family exploits you. They call it love. Claire smiled with her eyes closed. I watched her for a moment, then asked, Did you marry me because of your uncle? Her eyes opened. No. Board pressure? No. The company? No. Then why? She withdrew her foot. Not tonight. I stared at her. You can't answer 3 questions and then leave. I just did. She stood. At the hallway, she turned back. Ethan? Yeah. Rachel is single. I burst out laughing. Claire disappeared into her room. That night, I realized 2 things. My wife had been planning for me before I knew she wanted me. And now that I knew, I wanted to find out how far that planning had gone. I found the notebook on Sunday. Claire had gone out early. She told me she was visiting her parents' graves and would be back around noon. I was looking for the TV remote between the couch cushions when my fingers hit leather. A small black notebook. I opened it to identify the owner. Then I saw my name. I should have closed it. I didn't. April 12th. Ethan stayed late to help Naomi finish the routing model even though it wasn't his project. Complained the entire time. Bought her dinner anyway. Another page. April 28th. He brought me coffee. Too much sugar. Drank it anyway. May 9th. Gray shirt again. Unhelpful. I laughed. Then I kept reading. May 22nd. Receptionist gave Ethan homemade cookies. Disliked this more than was reasonable. Did nothing about it. This should count as personal growth. That sounded exactly like Claire. June 4th. He refused Marcus's Friday shift because he promised to call his mother for her birthday. Good. He keeps promises. Then, June 18th. Looked at apartments with a second bedroom. This is ridiculous. I stopped. June? The guest room hadn't begun 3 weeks ago. July 2nd. Bought his sparkling water. Hid it behind mine. He assumed facilities changed suppliers. I covered my mouth. July 8th. He mentioned wanting to build his own forecasting platform again. Asked legal about conflict rules without using his name. There may be a path. That one hit differently. Claire hadn't invented my dream as bait. She had been quietly looking for a way to make room for it months before asking anything from me. July 21st. Asked outside counsel how reporting structures should change if 2 employees marry. They asked whether this was hypothetical. I said yes. They did not believe me. I turned the page. August 3rd. Looked at lakeside wedding venues. Closed browser after 12 minutes. Reopened it after 6. I laughed under my breath. Then, August 17th. Ethan had lunch with Rachel from consulting. She touched his arm 3 times. 3. I counted. I am apparently 12 years old. There she was. The mildly unhinged woman underneath the COO. Then I reached September 30th. The night of the party. The elevator plan worked too well. My smile vanished. I read carefully. I know he always uses the east elevator after company events because it opens closest to his parking section. Asked Jenna to hold it because I wanted 5 minutes with him without 12 coworkers interrupting. Intended to ask him to dinner. Possibly. A line had been crossed out. I could still read it. I hoped he might finally notice me. Below that, someone bumped him. He kissed me. I panicked and slapped him. I am an idiot. I exhaled. Claire had planned the elevator. She had not planned the kiss. She had created an opportunity to get me alone. Then fate, or somebody's drunken elbow, had detonated the whole thing. The next entry was dated October 1st. He resigned. Nearly stopped breathing when I saw the envelope. Asked him to marry me instead. He said yes. Then, underneath, he actually said yes. And one final line. Went to restroom afterward because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I closed the notebook. The condo suddenly looked different. The sparkling water. The charger. The toothpaste. The contract release. The guest room. The wedding venues. Claire hadn't fallen for me because of an accidental kiss. The kiss had simply forced a woman who planned everything to finally move. The front door opened. Claire walked in carrying flowers. She saw the notebook. Stopped. I had never seen Claire Whitmore genuinely terrified before. Now I had. You found it. Yeah. How much? Enough. She put down the flowers. I stood. You planned the elevator. I planned to be in the elevator. You knew which one I used. Yes. You asked Jenna to hold it. Yes. You were trying to get me alone. For 5 minutes. You researched marriage reporting rules in July. Yes. You were looking at apartments in June. Her face reddened. That entry was private. You bought my sparkling water. That is hardly criminal. You hid it in your own refrigerator 4 months before I lived here. I had room. And wedding venues? Claire closed her eyes. That was a moment of weakness. You had multiple venues. I like comparative analysis. I laughed. She didn't. Why didn't you just ask me out? Her voice lowered. I was trying. For 5 months? I had complications. You run a 900-person company. Operations are easier than feelings. I set the notebook down. Why me? Claire crossed her arms. I had learned that gesture. It wasn't authority. It was armor. You were the first person at Halcyon who didn't become a different person around me. I waited. The first week you worked there, you told me my project timeline was impossible. It was. You argued with me for 12 minutes. You were wrong. You brought spreadsheets. I'm thorough. I went home and thought about you until 2 in the morning. That shut me up. Claire looked at the floor. You notice people nobody else notices. You know the names of the cleaning staff. You carried boxes for facilities while wearing a suit. You call your parents every Sunday. You complain constantly and then help anyway. Her eyes lifted. And you never tried to impress me. She smiled faintly. I wanted you to. Something tightened in my chest. So you started planning. I started noticing. Then planning. Eventually. You bought toothpaste. That was later. I stepped closer. Did you arrange the kiss? Her answer came immediately. No. Truth. I arranged an opportunity to talk to you without work around us. I thought maybe I could ask you to dinner. Someone bumped you. And I kissed you. Yes. And you slapped me. I panicked. You are terrible at romance. I'm aware. I was close enough now to see her breathing change. You could have kissed me. Claire's gaze dropped to my mouth. I didn't know if you wanted me to. That mattered. Maybe more than anything else. For all the planning, all the embarrassing notes, all the toothpaste and wedding venues and carefully engineered proximity, she had stopped at the one line that mattered. She had never decided my answer for me. So I answered now. I put one hand against her cheek. I waited. Claire didn't move away. Then I kissed her. Not because someone shoved me. Not because we were legally married. Not because she had paid me $3,000 that month or rewritten my employment restriction. Because after reading months of evidence that this impossible woman had been quietly building a place for me in her life, I wanted to kiss her. For 1 second, Claire froze. Then both hands grabbed my shirt. When we separated, her cheeks were flushed. That, I said, was intentional. Yes. Do you want me to do it again? She pulled me back by the collar. Claire Whitmore had never been especially fond of unnecessary questions. The marriage changed after that kiss. It did not become normal. Claire had no interest in normal. Now that I knew the truth, she stopped pretending half her behavior was coincidence. If she wanted my hand in the car, she took it. If she was jealous, I knew within 5 minutes. When Naomi from my old team hugged me after getting promoted, Claire waited until we were alone in the elevator. I disliked that. I laughed. I noticed. She hugged you for 8 seconds. You timed it? I have an accurate internal clock. Claire. Approximately 8 seconds. I kissed her forehead. You're ridiculous. I know. At least now she admitted it. She also kept her side of our agreement. My transfer became permanent. I moved into corporate strategy under a vice president who had no personal connection to Claire. Halcyon's legal department narrowed my employment restrictions so I could work on my own forecasting software as long as I used no company code, confidential data, or active client information. For the first time in a year, my side project became real. Marcus joined me on weekends. We called it Northline. Claire never asked for equity. That surprised me. She asked about everything else. What did Marcus think of the pricing model? Too expensive. He's right. You haven't seen it. I know you. Stop using that as evidence. She smiled. Sometimes I caught her hovering near my laptop. Not touching it. Just looking. Do you want to see? Yes. Then ask. Her jaw would tighten. Then, may I see? I always showed her. That became our strange little exercise. Claire learned that asking did not make her weak. I learned that setting boundaries did not make her leave. 3 months into the marriage, Northline landed its first paying customer, a small regional distributor that wanted a demand forecasting tool. The contract was only $12,000. I celebrated like we had gone public. Claire opened champagne. Then I saw the bottle. That costs more than our first month's revenue. No, it doesn't. Claire. Fine. It costs an irresponsible percentage. We drank it anyway. Later that night, she handed me an envelope. I opened it. Inside was a check. $3,000. The monthly payment from our agreement. I looked at her. You've been transferring this electronically. I know. Then why the check? Because I want to change the agreement. I frowned. Claire sat across from me. The compensation was part of why you could reasonably say yes. I don't regret offering it. Neither do I. But it bothers me now. Why? Because I don't want there to be a point where either of us wonders whether you stayed because I kept paying. I looked at the check. We signed for 12 months. I know. You can't just stop paying. I know. She pushed another document toward me. Of course there was a document. What is this? An amendment. If you agree, the remaining balance goes into a separate account in your name. It's still yours. I simply stopped sending monthly payments. I stared at her. You voluntarily asked a lawyer to make it harder for you to bribe your husband. I was not bribing you. Compensating me for marital inconvenience. Correct. I smiled. Then signed. Claire watched my pen move. Thank you. That mattered more than the money. But the real test came 2 weeks later. Graham Whitmore invited us to dinner. He did not invite us to his home. He invited us to his office. That was never a good sign. Graham sat behind a walnut desk with a folder in front of him. Claire took one look at it and said, "No." He sighed. "You haven't heard the proposal. I know what that folder is." I looked between them. "I don't." Graham pushed it toward me. Halcyon's board is preparing a strategic review. Claire is one of 2 internal candidates to become CEO when Martin Shaw retires next year. I looked at Claire. She had never told me that. Her expression was tight. Graham continued. The board's governance committee has concerns about your side company. Northline? Yes. It has one client. It has technology adjacent to Halcyon's business, and you are married to the COO. Claire cut in. Legal cleared it. Legal cleared his employment agreement. The board is considering reputational and governance risk. I opened the folder. The proposal was simple. Painfully simple. A Whitmore-controlled investment vehicle would buy Northline for $450,000. Marcus and I would receive the money. I would sign a 3-year non-compete limited to logistics forecasting. The conflict disappeared. Claire's CEO path became cleaner. I stared at the number. $450,000. Northline had one customer. On paper, this was absurdly generous. This is your money? I asked Graham. My fund. Claire stood. We're leaving. Sit down. No. Claire. You're trying to buy his company because you think my marriage is a governance problem. I'm trying to remove an obvious conflict before 6 independent directors decide it for you. Claire's face went cold. Then let them decide. Graham looked at me. This isn't a threat, Ethan. If the board concludes Northline creates too much risk, Claire may have to choose between recusing herself from major strategic decisions involving your market or stepping away from the CEO process. I looked at Claire. She said nothing. That was the problem. I suddenly understood why she hadn't told me. She had already made her decision. You are going to step away, I said. Her eyes shifted to me. Ethan. I can become CEO somewhere else. Graham leaned back. There are maybe 6 jobs in the country comparable to this one. Claire didn't look at him. I said what I said. I stared at my wife. Months earlier, she had built an entire offer around giving me career independence. Now that independence was threatening the job she had spent 12 years earning, and her instinct was still to protect my choice by silently sacrificing hers. That wasn't growth. That was Claire finding a more romantic way to control the outcome. I closed the folder. No. Graham looked at me. No to what? The sale. Claire's shoulders relaxed. I wasn't finished. And no to Claire stepping away. Her head snapped toward me. Ethan. This affects me too. It's my career. And Northline is mine. Which means I get a vote in what happens to Northline. Graham watched us carefully. Claire said, I will not let you kill your company for me. Good. Because I'm not going to. I picked up the folder. But I'm also not going to let you throw away the job you want so you can tell yourself you protected me. Her eyes hardened. You don't know what I want. Yes, I do. You do not. You have a 12-year career plan in a spreadsheet. Graham coughed to hide a laugh. Claire glared at him. I continued. You want that job? She looked at me. I knew I was right. The question was what I was willing to do about it. For the first time since we married, Claire and I had a real fight. Not playful irritation. Not jealousy. A fight. You are not shutting down Northline. I never said I was. You're thinking about it. I'm thinking about options. You worked for a year to make it possible. And you worked 12 years to become CEO. That was before you. I stared at her. That is exactly the problem. Her expression changed. What does that mean? It means you keep putting me at the center of decisions I didn't ask you to make. I'm your wife. Yes. You're my wife. Not my martyr. She went very still. I softened my voice. You told me I needed to choose you freely. That works both ways. Claire looked away. If Northline creates a conflict, I can solve the conflict. How? I don't know yet. Then don't make promises. I'm not. She folded her arms. There was the armor again. You could take Graham's offer, she said. I could. It's more money than Northline is worth. Right now. You could start something else. I could. And you'd resent me. That was the real fear. Not the CEO job. Not the board. She was afraid that one day I would look at the company I had sold and see her standing where it used to be. I stepped closer. I might resent you if you asked me to sell it. I'm not asking. I know. I never would. I know. Her eyes met mine. So stop deciding what I'll resent before I get there. Claire didn't answer. I spent the next week talking to attorneys, Marcus, our one client, and Halcyon's independent ethics counsel. Not Claire. That was important. I needed a solution that was mine. The answer was ugly but workable. Northline did not need to die. But I could not keep building it while remaining a Halcyon employee and expect the conflict to disappear. So I made a choice. I resigned from Halcyon. Not because Claire asked me to. She absolutely did not. When I put the letter on her kitchen counter Friday night, she stared at it as if I had placed a live grenade between us. No. I almost laughed. That's exactly what you said when I resigned the first time. This isn't funny. A little. Ethan. I already talked to my boss at HR. Her face changed. You did this without telling me? I needed to know it was my decision before I heard your opinion. I hate that sentence. I know. She picked up the letter. My resignation was effective in 4 weeks. Northline would operate independently. I would sign a strict confidentiality reaffirmation and a 1-year prohibition on soliciting Halcyon clients or employees. An outside firm would audit Northline's code base before launch to confirm that no Halcyon intellectual property had crossed over. It cost me something. My salary. My health benefits. My predictable career path. The comfortable option. Northline had enough revenue and savings to give me roughly 9 months of runway if Marcus and I paid ourselves almost nothing. Graham's $450,000 offer would have been safer. Staying at Halcyon while Claire stepped away from the CEO process would have been safer too. I chose neither. Claire read every page. Then looked at me. You're giving up a 6-figure job. Yes. For a company with 1 customer. 2. Her eyebrows rose. We signed another one yesterday. You didn't tell me. I was busy resigning. She did not smile. Ethan, this is risky. I know. You help your parents. I know. You have a mortgage contribution every month. I have savings. Northline has revenue. Marcus and I have a plan. What if it fails? Then it fails. Her face tightened. You say that too easily. No. I say it because failure is one of the possible outcomes. I took her hands. And if it fails, I get another job. You're choosing uncertainty. Yes. Why? There it was. The question this entire marriage had been moving toward. The first time I chose Claire, she had made it easy enough to understand. $3,000 a month. Career freedom. A transfer. A woman I was already fascinated by. Crazy, but rational enough to jump. This time, nobody was paying me. Nobody had prepared a guest room. Nobody had placed the safe option directly in my hands. I'm choosing my company, I said. And I'm choosing you. Claire's eyes searched mine. I can do both if I'm willing to give up the safe job in the middle. You don't have to. I know. That matters. I know. She swallowed. You could take Graham's money. I don't want his money. You could let me step out of the CEO process. I don't want that either. Why? Because I know what you want. She opened her mouth. I squeezed her hands. And this time, Claire, I'm not being dragged into your plan. Her eyes filled. I'm making mine. That broke her. Claire Whitmore, the woman who could dismantle an executive team without raising her voice, put both arms around me and buried her face against my chest. I held her. After a while, she whispered, I hate this. My resignation? Not controlling the outcome. I smiled into her hair. I know. What if Northline fails? You buy me cereal. I hate cereal. Marriage requires sacrifice. She laughed against my shirt. Then she pulled back. I have one condition. No, you haven't heard it. I know you. That finally made her smile. No investing in Northline? Her smile disappeared. How did you know? Because I know you too. I could give you favorable terms. No. Market terms. No. A convertible note. Claire. She sighed. Fine. If I need advice, I'll ask. You will? Yes. And if you need money? I'll ask my investors. She looked offended. You enjoy this? Immensely. Claire kissed me. Then, against my mouth, she murmured, I'm still reviewing your financial model. You are absolutely not. We'll discuss it. No. We're married. That does not give you board rights. Yet, there she was. Still Claire. Still a little too much. Just finally learning that love did not require owning every variable. The governance committee met 3 weeks later. Claire did not ask me to attend. I did anyway. Not the closed session. I had no right to be there. But when the committee requested a formal statement about Northline and my separation from Halcyon, I submitted one under my own name. I disclosed everything. The marriage. The original transfer. The amended prenup. The compensation Claire had offered when we married. The fact that the remaining payments had been placed in an account she no longer controlled. My resignation. The independent code audit. Northline's client restrictions. And one fact Claire hated me including. She owned 0% of Northline. She had never invested $1. She had never referred a client. She had never used Halcyon resources to help me. When Claire read my statement the night before the meeting, she looked furious. You included the spousal compensation. It's relevant. It's private. It's exactly the kind of thing they'll discover later and interpret badly. Her jaw tightened. I understood why she hated it. The arrangement made her look strange. A COO offering an employee $3,000 a month to enter an unconventional marriage was not standard executive biography material. But hiding it would look worse. You told me once you could control every variable except my answer, I said. She looked at me. This is the same thing. How? We don't control what the board thinks. We control whether we give them the truth. Claire stared at the statement, then signed the disclosure acknowledgement. That signature cost her something. Months earlier, she would have polished the situation until no vulnerable edge remained. Now she let people see the messy version. The real one. The committee cleared the conflict. Not because they found our marriage normal. Nobody found our marriage normal. They cleared it because the structure was clean. Northline was independent. I no longer worked for Halcyon. Claire had no ownership or financial control over my business. The board could evaluate her CEO candidacy on her performance rather than speculate about hidden conflicts. Graham called me that evening. You turned down $450,000. Yes. You're either principled or stupid. Marcus says both. And you quit a stable job. Yes. For Claire? For myself too. That's the only answer I would have respected. Then he hung up. Claire got the CEO job 4 months later. I found out before she came home because Halcyon issued the internal announcement at 4:07 p.m. At 4:09, my phone rang. Claire. I answered. Madam CEO. Silence. Then. They voted 11-1. You sound surprised. I'm not surprised. You sound like you're crying. I am not. Claire. I'm in an elevator. I smiled. Which one? She was quiet. Then she laughed. The east elevator. Of course. Stay there. What? Stay there. I grabbed my jacket. Halcyon's headquarters was 12 minutes from Northline's small rented office. I made it in 10. My old badge no longer worked, so security signed me in as a visitor. That felt strangely satisfying. I found Claire on the executive floor. She was standing outside the east elevator, the same bank where everything had started. The doors opened. Nobody else was inside. Claire looked at me. You told me to stay. You listened? Once a year. I stepped inside with her. The doors closed. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I said, Congratulations. Claire looked at me. I almost gave this up. I know. For you. I know. I thought that was love. I know. She stepped closer. And you quit instead. I quit for Northline. Liar. I smiled. Mostly for Northline. Ethan. And because I wasn't going to let the woman who researched my toothpaste 4 months before marrying me throw away the job she'd wanted since she was 22. That toothpaste was difficult to find. Claire. She smiled. Then her expression softened. You chose me. This time I understood exactly what she meant. The first marriage license had been her plan. The guest room had been her plan. The prenup, the money, the transfer, the county appointment, all hers. But this? I had walked away from the safest option available to build a future where neither of us had to shrink for the other. I did, I said. Claire reached for my tie. I caught her wrist. Her eyebrows rose. Ask. She stared at me. Then, with enormous reluctance, may I kiss my husband? I pretended to think. Depends. Her eyes narrowed. On? Are you going to slap me afterward? That happened once. Memorable experience. Ethan. Yes. Yes what? Yes, you can kiss me. She did. The first time we kissed in that elevator, neither of us had chosen it. This time, both of us had. Northline survived its first year. Barely. We lost 1 client, gained 4, spent 3 months worrying about cash flow, and eventually signed a regional manufacturer big enough to let Marcus and me pay ourselves real salaries again. Claire never invested. This required heroic restraint on her part. She did, however, read every public case study on our website and send me unsolicited comments. Chart 3 is ugly. Your pricing page is confusing. Who approved this font? I usually replied, thank you for your interest, Madam CEO. She hated that, which was why I kept doing it. We never had the giant wedding Claire's original planning folder suggested. We had something smaller beside Lake Michigan, with our families, a few friends, and Graham pretending he wasn't emotional. Before the ceremony, Claire handed me a small box. Inside was the ugly yellow mug from our kitchen. Or rather, a miniature ceramic version of it. I looked at her. What is this? You said we needed something that wasn't gray. You hated that mug. I still hate it. Then why? She handed me a second box. Inside was another miniature yellow mug. Because now there are 2. I laughed. That was Claire's version of romance. She could have bought anything. She chose the ridiculous object I had brought into her perfect condo because it represented the moment her carefully prepared home became ours. Our vows were short. Claire did not read the 4-page version she had written. She looked at me and said, I spent months preparing a place for you before I knew whether you would ever choose it. Her fingers tightened around mine. I don't do that anymore. I raised an eyebrow. Mostly. Everyone laughed. Claire smiled. Now I ask. I squeezed her hands. And I keep saying yes. That was enough. Months later, on the anniversary of our first legal marriage, I came home and found a familiar rigid folder on the kitchen counter. Vital records. I opened it. Inside was a copy of our original marriage license. Underneath, Claire had placed the first Northline contract and the announcement naming her CEO. 3 decisions. Hers. Mine. Ours. Claire came up behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist. You kept the license folder, I said. Of course. You keep everything. Only important things. I turned in her arms. You know, you could have saved us a lot of trouble by asking me to dinner. No. No? You might have said no. I might have. Claire looked offended. I laughed. Then she reached for my tie. Stopped. And waited. I smiled. Yes. I didn't ask yet. I know you. Her eyes narrowed. Then she kissed me anyway. The first time I kissed Claire Whitmore, I fell into her. The second time, I chose her. Everything after that was just us learning how to keep choosing each other without either of us having to fall. That's all for today. Remember to subscribe and support us.